Okay, so today's a very good day to review what we saw this week. We were learning, given the graphs, we have the graphs, given the graphs, we're going to be able to write the equation of a line. I could ask you for vertex form, I could ask you for intercept form, or I could ask you for standard form. So let me review all three. Question number 25. Read the instructions, okay? Always read the instructions. Here we're going to use the information provided to write the vertex form. So I'm writing vertex form here for each parabola. Now I need to know the vertex. The vertex in this case is this point. When my parabola is open down, is the highest point. When my parabola is open up, it's the lowest point. My vertex is the point -4, -6. And I know most of my answer. I have y equals, right now, let me just A for the aperture. The aperture, I expect this to be a negative number because it is open down. Right now, I don't know what the aperture is. I just know it's a negative number. Let me write it, let me call it A. And then x plus 4 squared, the whole parentheses, x plus 4 squared. Notice I switched the sign on the x. And at the far end, -6. Now, let me solve for the aperture. Let me use a random point on the graph. Random point. I'm going to choose the point -3, -7. That's the point I'm going to choose. All right, any point. I just chose that one. And then let me rewrite this. This is what I'm going to use to solve for my aperture. So let me write -7. Instead of y, I write -7. A. Now my parentheses, x plus 4, but x is -3, so 1 squared -6, right? X plus 4, I know x is -3, so -3 plus 4. That's how I got the 1 inside parentheses. Worry about your exponent first, so 1 squared. So let me write this as -7 is equal to a times 1 -6. Right, 1 squared, it's a 1, so I wrote a 1. My -6 to the far right, let me bring it to the left as a +6. Don't forget to switch the sign. So I get that -1 is equal to a times 1. I think from here with algebra 2 class, so we can see that a is equal to -1. The aperture, I expected it to be a negative number, so it makes sense. Now, if I was just to write this, if this was on paper, I will write y equals, I don't write the 1 for my aperture, but I do write the negative. X plus 4 squared -6. So if I was writing it right on paper, pencil, this is how I would write it. Now, how do I expect you to type it on my homework? Y equals negative, and then write the parentheses x plus 4 twice, then -6. All right, so that's the vertex form. Number 26, said always read the instructions. Use the information provided to write the intercept form equation of each parabola. All right, for the intercepts, I need to find out, where do I cross the x-axis? I cross this at -2 and +1. So I know most of my answer. Part of my answer is going to look like y equals the a, the aperture. I know it's a positive number because it's open up. And then I have x plus 2, x minus 1. right? I crossed it at -2. Notice I switched the sign, x plus 2. My other intercept was a +1, so I write x minus 1. Don't forget that I switched the sign. I just need to solve for the aperture. I'm going to choose a random point on my graph, a point that I can see the coordinates. One point that I'm going to use is this one. You guys can see it there. Coordinates of that point are 0, -4. So I'm going to use 0 for x and -4 for y. So let me write this as -4 is equal to a and then -1. Notice that each of my parentheses I use 0 for x, right? Because that was a coordinate of x. Multiply the parentheses at the end. So I have -4 is equal to a times a -2. I multiply the parentheses. Let me divide by a -2. So I'm going to get that a is equal to +2. So my answer will be y equals, the aperture is 2, right? If my aperture was 1, you don't have to write it. Because it's not a 1, you do have to write it. So 2, x plus 2, x minus 1. So I'm going to say it. For right now, let me just look at 25 and 26. Vertex form is not that bad. Intercept form is not that bad. Standard form, you're going to start from either the vertex form or the intercept form. If you're going to use the intercept form, make sure you know where do you cross the x-axis. If you're going to use the vertex form, make sure you know the vertex. All right. So let me take a look at number 27. I'm going to use this one using the vertex form. I see where I cross that x-axis. I could also use the vertex form, right? I know the vertex, but I'm going to use the intercept form. I cross it at -6 and -2. So intercept form is in the shape of y equals a, the aperture, x plus 6, x plus 2. Then let me choose a random point on my graph. Let me use this point. The coordinates of that one are -3, 3. So let me replace my values. Instead of a y, I write 3, a. My first parentheses, x plus 6. I know x is -3. So that's 3. And then -1. I use my x value for each. So I have that 3 is equal to a times a -3. I multiply my last two parentheses. Let me divide both sides by a -3. So I get that -1 is equal to a. Okay. So if it was the intercept form, I will get y equals the negative sign, x plus 6, x plus 2. If this was the intercept form. Now, because this is the standard form, to begin with, let me distribute the x. So I have right now y equals, let me distribute the x. So I got x squared plus 2x. Then let me distribute the 6 plus 6x plus 2. Then to finish this, let me multiply my aperture to each number, each coefficient, which are the big numbers, not the exponent, the big numbers. Let me multiply my aperture to that. So that gives me y equals -x squared minus 2x minus 6x minus 2. Let me combine my like terms. Oh, not a 2, right? That's not 2. That's 12. My 6 times 2. My bad. Okay, so that's a minus 12. Now, let me combine my like terms. So I have y equals negative x squared minus 8x minus 12. If I'm writing it, that's it. Now, how are you going to type this? Y equals negative x for x squared minus 8x minus 12. Standard form is a little lengthier. That's if we started from the intercept form. Now, looking at number 28, I'm not going to be able to use intercept form because I don't cross the x-axis. So in this case, I will have to use vertex form. My vertex is the point 3, 2. So if I was writing vertex form, I know most of my answer. Y equals A. Remember let me rewrite my vertex here. My vertex is the point 3, 2. So I have A, x minus 3 squared plus 2. Okay, now let me find a point on the graph. I'm going to use the point, this point right here. The coordinates of that one is the point 4, 3. So I have 3 is equal to A times 1 squared plus 2. So I have that 3 is equal to A times 1 plus 2, right? I did the exponent. My plus 2 at the far end, let me bring it as a minus 2. Don't forget to switch the sign. So I have that 1 is equal to A times 1. So that means 1 is equal to A. Nice. If I was writing the vertex form, this goes in the form y equals, I don't have to write the 1. But I'm going to go x minus 3 squared plus 2. That's if I was writing the vertex form. But I need this in standard form. So let me get rid of parentheses. So I'm literally going to see this as y equals. My aperture, again, I don't write it. But I'm going to write my parentheses x minus 3 twice. So let me get rid of parentheses. I have y equals. Let me distribute the x. So that gives me x squared minus 3x. And then let me distribute the negative 3. So that gives me negative 3x plus 9. I don't worry about the plus 2 yet. My aperture technically is 1, right? Multiplied, like I said, I'm not worried about this plus 2 yet, okay? Except my aperture is 1. So multiply the aperture to each of these numbers. So I have that y is equal to x squared minus 3x minus 3x plus 9. When you multiply by 1, nothing happens. But what if the aperture was not 1? All right, I still multiplied it by that. And now, in this case, now after I multiply by my aperture, now let me write my plus 2. That number, just write it down. That number does not get multiplied with the aperture, okay? So I just brought it down. My last step, I'm just going to combine like terms. So x squared minus 6x plus 11. How am I going to type this? Y equals xx minus 6x plus 11. There you go.